Sup, my nerds? Today we're gonna take this elephant mini, make it look like this, and show you how to do it. So here we have our elephant, and it's pretty bland. It's all one shade of one color. The legs back here are the same shade of blue as the arms, as is the head. And we want to create depth and make it look more realistic. So we're going to darken the lower leg here, and then we'll add a bit of vibrancy to the arms. And from there, we'll bring up the brightness on the head by adding some white. Now we're not going to go too bright just yet, but we do want the head to be much brighter than the rest of the body. It's the most important part of the mini, so we want it to be the brightest. So looking at it now, there's a decent gradient, but obviously it's still not different enough. There's not enough contrast going on. So we're going to round out the muscles by adding progressively lighter tones to smaller parts of the miniature to give it a rounded effect, to make it look like the light is bending around each muscle. Let's do that to the trunk too. Now I'm gonna pick a side for light to be most prevalent. I'm gonna pick this side over here because I don't think that the front is actually a good viewing angle. You have these two tusks in the way, but on the side here, it's a much nicer viewing angle. So we're gonna have the light hitting it from here. Because of that, I'm gonna just start punching in some whites, really brighten this side up, and then I'm gonna throw in some blacks to show the contrast between those blacks and the white. It'll really make the light seem to pop off of this side of the miniature. Now, this piece of cloth down here is the same tone as the skin, and it just looks weird. So just to get that out of the way, I'm gonna throw some white on it. And while the white is still wet, I'm gonna throw some wet brown paint on the very bottom, and it'll kind of blend in with the white. It'll make it look like it's a dirty cloth instead of just a white cloth hanging out down there. Now we're gonna hit all the wood pieces. So the door here and then this cask, we're just bringing it up through brighter and brighter shades of brown. Again, this just makes it look like it's not just one flat brown color and not just one flat silver color. We're gonna throw some black on these metal pieces and then just take a little bit of white and go along the edges and pop all the little interesting pieces down on there to make them look like light is hitting them differently. Again, we don't want anything just to be one color, so I'm gonna throw a little bit of brown on the tusks here just so that they're not all white. Makes them look older, like there's been some wear. So we're gonna throw the white on, and again, while it's still wet, throwing a little bit of brown. Let's detail out the face too. I'm going to bring a bright highlight around the eye and then just color in that eye black. Now I'm gonna just keep hammering in blacks to really make the three-dimensional shapes look more three-dimensional. The more black that you have, the more depth is going to appear. If I'm working on the metals, I'll throw on some more black so that when I add some white to the highest points, it'll make it look like light is reflecting off of it. I'll do that to the rest of the metal pieces, just hammer in some black, throw on some white on the highest points, and it'll look more reflective. To show an example, if I just blast this side with light, it'll create a dark line. So I'm just gonna follow that dark line with my brush and a darker version of the silver, and then it'll create that dark line on the miniature. I'll go right above it after that and add white, and it'll make it look like the light is really popping off of the side of there, like it's an extremely bright light on this piece of metal. It's looking pretty good right now, but to be honest, this whole area could be darker. The darker I make this area, the more three-dimensional it's gonna look. So let's just hammer in as much black as we feel comfortable. See, when you hammer blacks into an area, it really makes it appear that there's depth here, like that area continues to go on into a space that you can't even see. And it's really neat. There we go. Before it was starting to look pretty two-dimensional, but when you throw in these blacks and you differentiate the color a bit, things start to look like they're further away from one another, and it makes the miniature look, well, cooler, but also more realistic. After you're done hammering in your blacks, touch up some highlights, and then start adding your brightest highlights to the top of the face here, especially that side where the light's coming from. You really want it to look like it's being blasted by light. It'll draw people's eyes there, and it'll bring the attention to the important spots of your mini. Now I'm gonna also create these little bone pieces up here, just with the same technique as I did the tusks. Add a little white spot to the eye as a reflection of light. And then just outline the eye and an even brighter highlight. Right now it's got depth, which is great, but it doesn't have that many different colors going on. And I think it could use something a little extra. So tomorrow, Naomi's gonna show you guys how to improve your color scheme on your old minis.